What's the worst physical pain you've ever felt? Cluster headaches. Like an ice pick so hot it's red stabbed in eye. On top of that pain, throughout the attack there is a bonus where it feels like the ice pick is jabbed harder and jerked up and down, creating more intense pain than the ice pick just being in the eye. Some attacks last 3 to 4 hours. Ovarian torsion that resulted in the ovary rupturing and hemorrhaging. I'd rate it a solid negative 200 out of 10. Edit, graphic surgery pics here. Edit 2, just clarifying, this was my actual left ovary rupturing, not the rupture of an ovarian cyst. My ovary had large cysts on it, which were so heavy that the fallopian tube twisted in on itself, cut off blood supply to my ovary, which caused the hemorrhagic rupture. I previously had my right ovary removed, during a hysterectomy, and good old lefty was my last one. Instant surgical menopause at 31. Nerve pain from herniated L5 disc. Fentanyl, morphine, Valium, Dilaudid didn't touch it. Couldn't sleep more than 2 hours a night for more than 2 weeks. Was putting pressure on the S1 nerve root so my hole would cramp. Couldn't stand up straight. Couldn't sit or stand for more than 20 minutes. I've given birth, by C-section, with a failed epidural by the 4th centimeter. I've had an eardrum rupture, and that nerve pain is the worst thing I've experienced because painkillers don't do anything for it. While in labor, without pain medication, they had to do a manual rotation. It's where the doctor/midwife puts their hand inside of you to rotate your baby. I could feel every bit of it, and it still gives me nightmares, sometimes 5 years later. But, my baby and I did okay, which is all I cared about. Cluster headaches. Like an ice pick so hot it's red stabbed in eye. On top of that pain, throughout the attack there is a bonus where it feels like the ice pick is jabbed harder and jerked up and down, creating more intense pain than the ice pick just being in the eye. Some attacks last 3 to 4 hours. Yep. Gotta be this. They're called suicide headaches for a reason. I had a pretty bad episode a few years back where I'd get one and it would last for a half hour or so. About every 4 to 6 hours. For 2 months. They'd wake me up in the night. I'd dread them all day. I remember burying my head in a pillow and screaming and squeezing my head so hard I thought I'd break my own skull, and thinking maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing if I did. I'd get so agitated that I couldn't sit still. I had to cancel plans and trips and just drop whatever I was doing to try to cope. Of course, the main recommendations are reduce stress and get more sleep, which are both absolutely impossible when your life is just pinballing between anxiety and pain. Even now, just the thought of one induces panic almost to the point of dissociation. Some things in this thread sound more intensely painful, but I cannot imagine anything short of intentional torture that combines that level of pain and dread. The pain was so bad for me I started to get really cold and then hot, like I was going into shock. I spasmed so hard I pinched a nerve and was numb on the left side of my body. The doctor and nurses just told me to take a Tylenol. There's a real pain problem in gynecology. Weirdly enough, the only gyno I've found who is willing to do IUD pain management is male. The women gynos have been the worst at gaslighting. Probably someone in the hospital stole the fentanyl and so you got saline instead of anesthesia. Wouldn't be the first time. I am so sorry that happened to you. You might be able to file a lawsuit because this has happened before when hospitals aren't strict enough about management of narcotic medications. Nerve pain from herniated L5 disc. Fentanyl, morphine, Valium, Dilaudid didn't touch it. Couldn't sleep more than 2 hours a night for more than 2 weeks. Was putting pressure on the S1 nerve root so my hole would cramp. Couldn't stand up straight. Couldn't sit or stand for more than 20 minutes. I've given birth, by C-section, with a failed epidural by the 4th centimeter. I've had an eardrum rupture, and that nerve pain is the worst thing I've experienced because painkillers don't do anything for it. I had similar issue. Months of going from hospital to hospital asking for an MRI only to be given different types of pain meds and being told to do some stretches and I'd be fine. No pain meds helped anything. Only morphine injection. When I finally got a doctor to put me in an MRI, took the edge off. And I was still only able to stay curled in a ball. Disc had curled back into spinal cavity and cut off the root of the nerve. By that time my whole leg was not only in a constant Charlie horse, but my foot and knee and swollen like crazy from walking differently, when I could muster the strength to walk. Whole body was covered in rug burn, because dragging myself was the only way I could move a lot of the time. As soon as I came out of the MRI, the surgeon put me in the surgery queue for the next day and said if they didn't act ASAP I could have permanent nerve damage, be paralyzed partially on that side. Waking up from the surgery was so fucking glorious. Could feel the nerve coming alive again. No pain down the leg, except the swelling in knee and foot. Only localized back pain. I almost cried. Before the surgery I had seriously considered killing myself if I had to live in that pain much longer. Had a bit of a relapse about 6 months later. A friend recommended a book called The Back Mechanic by Stuart McGill. Helped me a ton from learning how to work out and move in everyday functions differently. Haven't had any issues since, knock on wood. Hopefully you're in a good spot now. While in labor, without pain medication, they had to do a manual rotation. It's where the doctor/midwife puts their hand inside of you to rotate your baby. I could feel every bit of it and it still gives me nightmares, sometimes 5 years later. But, my baby and I did okay, which is all I cared about. My 10-pound 10 ounces son got stuck when his arm came out first and got wedged next to his head. Because of placenta placement, the only safe thing to do was push him back up inside me and push his arm back. All this rummaging around, pushing and shoving was done via my vagina. I can still hear my own screaming and my hip bones grating against each other. The pain was mind-bending. My brain took me to a weird, prehistoric, animal place which I've never quite forgotten. I tore my ACL and had to ride a bus 7 hours back to our home hospital with no ice and 1 Tylenol. After the surgery, I was allergic to the antibiotics and developed full body hives right after the night shift and wasn't checked on the whole night, and on top of all of that, my call button didn't work. I laid there for 6 hours, having a full body allergic reaction, unable to move, scream, or call for help. Edit. For some context, it happened when I was in high school. We were playing football in a different state, and my parents weren't at that game. Humble brag, but it was a legendary hit where I broke his leg and a rib, and he did that to me. We were both knocked unconscious. I had to ride the bus back because that was the quickest and cheapest way back. They were going that way anyway, lol. It was penicillin that I found out I was allergic to, and after my ACL surgery, they put my knee in one of those auto flexor things, so it moved it for me. I was unable to get up, and the pain was so much I could scream. Felt like one of those nightmares where you scream and no voice comes out, except it actually happened. Didn't sue because my parents were poor and couldn't afford a lawyer. I was healing really well, then slipped on some ice going to basketball practice and ruptured the meniscus of my other knee. It wasn't a good year and my knees now hurt at 35. Become athletes' kids, not athletes. All dental pain. All of it. Here's a little pinch for the numbing. Then you literally feel the needle poking your eye. And it numbs your lips and tongue and cheeks and nose and gums, sometimes your face to the ears, but not the motherfucking tooth they are drilling into. I had extensive dental work in the Air Force and the doctors all said this is impossible. I put enough lidocaine in you to kill a small horse, there is no way you are feeling any real pain in that tooth. Oh, it was real all right. But they were officers in the military and you could not backtalk or correct them. It got to the point where they would give me an armload of Valium. At some point our supply guy said, "Hey, there is a recall in our anesthetic." Being ran over from my ankle to my shoulder. And having road rash across 40% of my body. Front teeth broken and knocked out. Yes, that was 20 years ago, actually engaged to the woman who did it. We have 2 children together. I guess we all have our turn-ons. Lamau, yup, you know I was ready to go right after I got out of the hospital. Okay, but how did that happen? Story time. Please. So I was 17 and took a few pills at my cousin's house. A girl I happened to like at the time showed up in a Ford Bronco as me and a friend were leaving. I was on a Razor scooter, she pulls up, starts talking to us. I said, "Hey, let's go." I grabbed the mirror, she started driving, and by the time she hit 25 or 30 miles per hour my arms started splitting, couldn't hold the scooter straight anymore. I went face first into the pavement. Knocked me out cold the second I hit. Then the truck went over the top of me. Woke up staring at the pavement, tried to stand, fell cause I couldn't put weight on my leg. My friend was there, threw me in the truck, went to his house, smoked a cig, then went to the hospital. Kidney stones. Felt like I was being stabbed from the inside. It's a pain you never, ever forget, and you learn to dread the "I'm generally sore in this specific spot inside my torso" feeling. It's a knife, made of fire, that slowly and methodically traces a line across your abdomen from the inside. You can massage the area, you can drink a bunch of water, you can take aspirin and ibuprofen. Nothing helps in time? You just have to sit, or curl into a ball on the floor, and wait for the pain to pass. Nothing makes it go faster. Nothing alleviates the pain. It's just you and the fire knife in your abdomen, waiting for it to finish its course. When my body was on fire, but only after it got put out. During the fire was just pure fear. I was scrolling for this one. 25% of my body had second-degree burns from a gas fire, and I don't remember much pain from the incident. The pain that I remember most was the first time I got debrided. That's what people don't get, it's everything after the fire that hurts the most. We've got painfully similar stories. I hope you've been able to get into therapy. It was an absolute game changer for me to process my first experience and get to the point I felt I could do it again, with a different care team at a different hospital, and a crapload of self-advocacy. EMDR is what I did for about a year, weekly sessions, and it truly helped me get over the nightmares and panic attacks. Now, I'm about a month away from my due date and somehow feeling really good this time around. Not perfect, but good. Confident that the shit show from the first time around won't happen again. Anyway, you're not alone, and I wish you healing.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department. So please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.